What everybody's coming at you with another episode of Beyond the Truth. Haven't been given the opportunity to chat with y'all much lately, so I definitely did want to take that chance here on Friday afternoon. Got a lot of stuff going on in my life and in the world around, and I just want to talk to you guys about it. I'd love to give you my opinion and my take on it. Would love to get your feedback on it, and maybe together we can figure a lot of this crap out. What do you say? And I just drank some of my instant, so hopefully my brain is firing on all cylinders, which, by the way, you can save 10% off right now on Alpha Brain and Alpha Brain Instant by going to our Facebook page, going to the On It link, throwing some Alpha Brain Instant in your cart, and using the code GETONIT at checkout. GETONNIT. Fire up your neurotransmitters. Get your mind working at its highest potential. Alpha Brain Instant, only from On It. Get On It at checkout. Save yourself 10%. So, couple of things I wanted to bring back up, a couple of amendments to some statements I made in the last couple weeks. So I had talked to you about a podcast that I had started listening to that I was enjoying, Bite the Mic, the podcast with, I believe his name is Steve Rosenberg and Mike Tyson. And I made the comment about how great it was to see Tyson having a second and third act to his career. However, after having continued to listen to more episodes, I don't know that he should be on a podcast. He doesn't seem to, A, want to be involved, B, give a damn about the show, and C, have any recollection of his life prior to the last 5 years. So I love Mike Tyson. I find him funny and charming at this stage in his life. He's always great on TV. But he gives 2-word answers every time they go to him on the show. They are often asking him questions about certain fights early in his career or certain things that happened in his life in the 80s and 90s, whether it was what was the first car he bought or things of that nature. And he just has no answer. He doesn't remember or just doesn't want to answer. It's like they're using him as a name and as a showpiece to get people interested in the podcast, which is a shame. Because on the surface, the opportunity to get to enjoy Mike Tyson 2 to 3 times a week, to have him as part of your listening lineup, to participate in his life as you do with the podcast that you so frequently do listen to, was awesome. At first glance, this is cool. Finally, get to know more about Mike Tyson on a human level. But it's just not happening on this show, man. They've had some good episodes because of the guests that I always enjoy talking to. Most recently, the 2 episodes with Adam Carolla. He himself has a really cool story, obviously a hugely successful podcast. So he was very funny and witty on the show. But again, it's like pulling teeth to get Mike to say anything, let alone something real engaging or interesting. So I kind of take back my recommendation about checking out the Bite the Mic podcast. Hopefully, maybe he'll get a little better in the future, maybe a little more fluid, more interested in being on the show. But right now, save yourself the time and allow me to update you if it ever gets better. Another show that I had a bit of an axe to grind with, another hugely popular show, The Big Brown Breakdown with Brendan Shaw. Got a hugely successful podcast on the fighter and the kid. Again, another guy who's having a great second act to his career after, leaving the UFC and finding a very profitable and successful career in podcasting, and now as a stand-up comedian selling out theaters and so forth. But he made a comment on his Big Brown Breakdown last week that is absolutely absurd, and I would tell him that to his face. He claims that at 235 pounds prior to joining the UFC, he ran a sub 5-minute mile. And pardon my language, but on that claim I am calling bullshit. He may be a runner, he may like to use running as part of his cardio and his exercise. But having been a college track coach and been around runners for 2 decades, that being a huge part of my life, there is no way Brendan Schaub at 235 pounds was running a sub 5-minute mile. It's not happening. He's not that fast. It's just not. And to make absurdist comments like that really do a lot to damage your credibility. Not that he doesn't say a lot of absurdist things for effect and for humor, and that I get. But there are times when you say things like this, total deadpan with no humor intended, that you're really going to lose the respect of discerning listeners. And that was just one thing on that show that just really turned me off. I mean, you're already famous. You fought in the UFC. You're a millionaire. You're known worldwide now by people for various things. Don't try and make more of it by making such absurd, not true claims. And again, maybe nitpicky, but that kind of thing just bugged me. So I'd listened to a podcast this morning, or listened to half of it, because at the onset, by the title, I thought it was going to be a good episode. It was the Art of Manliness podcast, which does have some good ones every now and again. But this one was about an author, Why You Should Let Your Kids Fail, and she had written a book and was on to discuss it. So at the onset, again, by the title, I thought, oh, this is going to be good. This is something that I do agree with. And part of the message was accurate, was something I do believe in, that you should indeed allow your children to fail. You can't expect perfection from them all the time. You can't make them feel that it's either be perfect or nothing. You need to let them understand that it is okay to fail. It is okay to not get something right or be number one all the time. However, competition is a very good thing. They need to strive for excellence. They need to try and win anytime they're competing. Those are necessary. But that if you do fall short, that is normal and that is okay. Learn from it. Do better next time. The part of this author's message in the show that I don't agree with was how parents should be more hands-off and give their children respect and space to do their own thing and let them learn and fail on their own. So learning and failing is one thing. But as we are seeing with all these things going on in the country, the last thing parents need to do is be more hands-off and give their children more space. Children need to stop being coddled. Nurturing your child and coddling them are two very different things. Nurturing involves creating a home and an atmosphere that fosters love, support, respect, and devotion and compassion to your child. Coddling is catering to all their whims, letting their attitudes dictate your life, giving them what they want, being afraid to punish them, being afraid to tell them they are wrong, being afraid that they will not like you. Always putting blame on yourself or someone else, never letting blame fall on the child where it should. That is coddling. Coddling and nurturing are two very different things. Every parent should nurture their child in a home of love and support, but no one should coddle their child. Allowing them to have space and staying out of their business and letting them do their own thing, that is a problem. They will have all the opportunity in the world as an adult to do their own thing and make their own choices. As a parent and as an adult, it is your responsibility to intervene and guide, mentor, lead, and be parental to that child. So I totally disagreed with that about creating the the cushy, soft, pillowy landing spot for a child when they fail or for everything they do. No, let the child fall down, let them fail, let them get hurt, let them learn from it and be there to support them. But don't try and create a perfectly soft landing every time. That is not the way to raise functioning, effective, successful humans. I don't care what these books and these psychologists say. I don't buy it. And part of it led into, and I didn't really get into the end of it, disciplining the child and how you should and how you shouldn't. And I totally believe in positive reinforcement, 100%. When a child, a teenager, whoever does something good, you reward them, whether just verbally or otherwise. You provide positive reinforcement. This is necessary. However, the idea that negative reinforcement must be avoided and that disciplining or even spanking your child cannot happen, I think is completely false. And again, we're getting into a battle of semantics here. Spanking your child is completely different than abusing your child. The hands-off parenting approach, I find, is ineffective. Discipline, corporal punishment are perfectly acceptable in my eyes. Would I ever abuse a child, hit a child, hurt a child? No. However, smacking them on the butt, smacking their hands, letting them know when safety is an issue, whether their safety or their brother's or sister's safety, anything of that nature, physical discipline is acceptable in my book, in my household. If my 1-year-old is touching light sockets or messing around with an outlet, he's going to get smacked. He's going to get smacked on the butt and he's going to get his hand smacked. If my 3-year-old is jumping off the couch, endangering herself, risking breaking her neck, risking breaking her arm, anything of that nature, she's going to get smacked. She's going to get smacked on the butt and she's going to get smacked on the hand. They are going to learn from that. That negative reinforcement, that sting from the smack on the butt, that sting from the smack on the hand, is going to be a memory that they're going to think of the next time they go to do something like that. That will stick with them. And in my eyes, the way I was raised, there is nothing wrong with that. I see constant posts from parents and educators and others who completely disagree. And that is their right. But from my opinion, the way I was raised, it is effective. My parents never beat me. They never abused me. They loved me as much as any two parents could ever love a child. But they certainly didn't spare the rod when it came to disciplining me. I got spanked countless times, over and over again, because it was necessary. I misbehaved, or I mouthed off, or I did things that endangered myself, and I got bent over the knee and I got smacked. Granted, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, using a brush was acceptable, using a belt was acceptable. Not so much now, and I probably won't even go that route. That may be a little harsh, but the idea of what was being done is acceptable, folks. It taught me to be respectful, and it raised me to be a good person. I think much of the problem our teenagers today have is because there is no discipline. There is no fear of being spanked. There is no fear of being grounded, of having their phones taken away. There's no discipline. My father raised me to respect him, to respect my mother, to respect adults, and respect everybody else around me. And if I didn't, there might be a smack coming. At the end of that, there was always the hugs and the reassurance that I didn't want to do that, that do you know that I love you, and do you know why that happened? And there was always a conversation of love and nurturing, but that followed the discipline. So I didn't agree with that part of this author's book and where the podcast was going. I feel maybe it's just because how I was raised. My father was, again, very loving. but very conservative, very respectful. He is a Marine. He was raised in a Christian home. As a Marine, he was a child who had to go out and get a job at age 6 to help the family. He lived a different life than I ever had to live, so we were raised in a certain manner. So because of that, my outlook on parenting, my outlook on child rearing and development may be a little different than others. But I also find it effective. I grew up loved. I felt loved. I feel loved today. I feel extremely loved by my parents. There's nothing that they wouldn't do for me or my family or my children. So there was no lack of that because there was an increase in discipline in my childhood. So I will proceed with raising my children that way. So from the brother sin perspective, structure and discipline and boundaries are an absolute necessity in the household and in society. So we had the Florida shooting, which we talked about. On the last episode, I talked about the shooting that occurred in our school district, in our school here down the road, which unfortunately that child has passed. But in the days since that Florida shooting, in that shooting in Jackson schools, we have had no less than 6 threats of violence in the county and the surrounding schools. Some were pranks, some serious. The school here today in the district where my business is located, my office, they were once again on lockdown, and they did find a weapon, a gun in the school. These kids need boundaries. They need discipline. Think that it's funny. It's funny to call in a prank, to call in a threat. They think that there's no consequence to it. They don't respect human lives and what gun violence can do. No matter what they see on TV, they don't respect it. Countless schools this week, and who knows what's happening in the rest of the country. I'd love feedback from you guys to see what's going on in your world, but in my world, it's been all around me. These kids are running amok with this, and it is a travesty. And this is not a gun issue. The shooting portion, yeah, there's some discussions to be had, but these kids making these threats, especially the idle threats that were jokes, or one of the schools had a threat that was found written on a bathroom wall on a stall about violence that was going to occur at 7 period. There was no weapon. There was nothing on site. There was no gun. It was an idle threat. But the idea that these kids think that that is normal behavior is the problem. I don't understand what's going on in their head. And I try and talk to other teachers. I try and talk to people that are more involved with teenagers, and they all say the same thing. The kids don't get it. They are, for lack of a better term, they are dodo birds. They live in a world that is not reality. Whether it's the social media, whether it's attached to their phones, whether it is the lack of discipline at home, they are not living in a society of reality. And that brings up, so we've seen these students protesting and marching in Florida, and I'm torn on that. I do believe that every human from, an hour old till 100 years old deserves respect. It is a human life. They have a say. They have a purpose. But a teenager who has never lived outside the home, never lived on their own, never experienced the real world, going out protesting things that they don't understand, demanding changes that they don't understand the impact of, demanding changes that they don't understand how they would come about, criticizing a president or bad-mouthing a president, not understanding that it is the Congress and Senate that enact legislation. It is not all the responsibility of the president. They can't just free rein to walk out of schools and protest and have people telling them how and brilliant they are. Because yes, everybody deserves to have a voice, but 99% of them don't know what they're protesting for, and they don't know the truth. They don't have the ability to understand. It's a much bigger deal than what they're protesting about. And if you've all seen the memes, I'm sure you have. And it sounds kind of corny and it's a bit ridiculous, but it's also a lot of truth in it. Last week we were worried about all these kids getting sick and some dying from eating Tide Pods on this stupid Tide Pod challenge that was going via Snapchat or whatever medium it was being passed around. And this week those same age kids are out protesting the streets and we're acting like they are brilliant saviors and we need to listen to them. So you can't have it both ways. The bottom line, want change and safety, and they deserve change and safety. But they don't have the facts. They don't have the life experience or the ability to comprehend what change it is that they need. And media and the news outlets and everybody else is pumping them full of the wrong ideas and the wrong misinformation to drive their agenda. And these kids are running with it. And it's going to end up drowning their voice because they're going to get more and more absurd, and people are just going to start tuning them out instead of understanding that they do deserve change, and we as a society need to help bring that. And the media outlets they're destroying the message. They're destroying the message on all fronts because they've all got their own agenda, whether CNN or MSNBC or Fox News on the right. They've all got their agenda. They all skew the news one side or the other to push their narrative. But because they are doing this, they are creating a nation full of sheep who don't know any better, and they're getting online and they're spouting off, starting arguments with complete misinformation and a complete lack of the facts. And it's creating an even bigger rift in society, and something needs to change. For example, CNN's been running these press conferences or whatnot with the Broward County Sheriff Israel, who came out and said that yes, the armed guard who was supposed to be protecting that high school stood outside for 4 to 6 minutes and refused to enter while the gunman was shooting children. So he came out and admitted that, and he admitted at first that he should have gone in, he should have confronted the shooter, and he should have killed him. But now he's on CNN and he's lambasting the NRA, claiming that the NRA is not standing up for these students. And that's his message. However, he's clearly not bringing to light the facts that A, was the NRA the one who was called to the killer's home 39 separate times? No. Was the NRA the one who warned Cruz wanted to kill people in school? No. Was the sheriff called to the killer's home 39 separate times because of incidences? Yes. Was it the sheriff's department who was warned that Cruz had made statements and made comments that he had wanted to kill people via a school shooting? Yes. So CNN is pushing this whole narrative against the NRA via this sheriff, but yet they're leaving out the facts that this sheriff, the sheriff's department, had the knowledge and the ability to get ahead of this and stop it, gun or no gun. So because they highlight one thing and they drown out another, they are never presenting a clear story. And that is the constant that is our media. It happened with the elections. It's happened all year long politically. And now it's happening with a more dire issue, the safety of our children. And what is someone to do? Where do you turn? Where do you get your message? Where do you get information? Because I think everybody wants information. Everybody wants to know the truth. Everybody wants to know what's going on. But they cannot find a reliable source, and that is a shame. These news networks are now purely advertisement driven. They are entertainment. They are no longer black and white, nonpartisan news outlets. To be honest, I don't know if there is a good, reliable one out there. And everything's got a bias. And you see constantly online when somebody will post a story and then somebody underneath it will post the contradiction via Snopes that it has been proven is false. You think Snopes is an unbiased, unagendaed party? No. They've got people that fund it. That is not any governing body to say what is and what isn't false. So don't ever turn to that thinking that that is the truth. You need to get beyond the truth if you really want the answers. Catch my drift? So I know this is probably rambling and may not be going where I had hoped it was going. However, I'm just so over seeing all the arguments. I need to get off Facebook. If I didn't have businesses, if I didn't have to promote things and be on Facebook for those purposes and on social media, I really would toss the smartphone out the window and go back to the Nokia flip phone because it's so tiring. Just seeing the lack of facts and the ignorance spouted over and over and over again in the arguments by people that say things that A, aren't true, B, that they're repeating without fact checking and just making up claims. Like the assault rifle issue, that assault weapons need to go. It's like, wake up, folks. Assault weapons have been banned for over 20 years. AR-15 does not mean assault rifle 15. In fact, the AR-15, it may look scary, like a machine gun, but it's a one trigger pull, one bullet gun. Should any guns be in school? Hell no. But the AR-15 is not a fully automatic machine gun. It is a one pull, one bullet gun. And enough with the assault weapon ban. They've been banned. They've been illegal for years. But again, these agendas are being driven by certain sides of the aisle and certain media outlets, and it's completely convoluting the message. And that's why I fear that no real change will ever get impacted. That is my fear for my children, my society, that things will continue as they will because no one will ever meet in the middle and discuss the truth. But moving on. I want to talk a little bit of wrestling, amateur wrestling, for our fans out there that are listening. We've got the NCAAs coming up here after conference tournaments, and they have just released the 2018 allocations for the tournament. And some of it I find a little interesting. So there will 33 wrestlers per weight class, so a total of 330 wrestlers will compete at the NCAAs. 283 of those will be automatic qualifiers to the tournament. That's what was allocated, 283. So there will be, the D1 Wrestling Committee will allocate and award 47 additional at-large bids after the completion of all the conference tournaments. So the spots were allocated as such that the Big Ten finished with close to double the amount of automatic qualifiers of the next closest conference, which is the EIWA, which landed 47. So the Big Ten also received the most spots in 9 out of 10 of the weight classes. Both the Big Ten and the EIWA received 6 allocated berths at 197 pounds, so they were tied there. But the Big Ten got 10 spots at 125, 9 spots at 149, where the next closest was 5. They got 10 spots at 165, and then 8 at 84, 6 at 97, 7 at 85. But really just kind of surprising. And not really. Big Ten's very tough, but more than double the next closest. So that's So that's interesting. And the criteria for an automatic qualifier allocation is that each qualifying tournament was awarded spots per weight class based on current year data. Each wrestler measured on the following: Division I winning percentage at the weight class, ratings percentage index with RPI, and the coach's ranking. And for each wrestler that reached the threshold in at least 2 of the 3 categories, his qualifying tournament was awarded a qualifying spot in that weight class. Each qualifying tournament with automatic qualifying status was awarded a minimum of 1 wrestler per weight class, which will go to the tournament champion, even if they did not have any wrestlers reach at least 2 of the 3 thresholds. So if you win the tournament, you're in, even if you didn't reach the 2 of 3 thresholds. NCAA tournament spots for each qualifying event will be awarded at the tournament based solely on place finish. The at-large selections, however, will be made based on the following criteria, which is head-to-head competition, quality wins, coaches ranking, results against common opponents, RPI, qualifying event placement, and winning percentage. So there you go. That's the breakdown of who got the most allocations and then how those go about it. So again, Big Ten got the most, EWA got the second most, Big 12, and then it's kind of even through the ACC, EWL, MAC, Pac-12, and the Southern Conference. So looking forward to that. It's going to be a good year. From where I'm at here in Ohio, got a local boy, local champ, Dean Hale, making his run again. Had a little bit of a hiccup here this year. I think he did a 3 or 4 match skid, but talking to one of our listeners who's real close with him, he was hurt and sick, but pushed through it anyway, but is now recovered and poised to make a real run to cap off his career with an NCAA title, in his backyard. And, what quite a swan song that will be for Dean, coming from Brunswick and, going out there to Oklahoma, doing, just killing it, and then coming back and be able to wrap up his career, 20 minutes from home, downtown Cleveland in front of all his family. So that's awesome. And again, going to be more big stories. Obviously, Kyle Snyder, Kuhn again, a rematch could be a big story. We got Imart. We just got so many great wrestlers again this year in the NCAAs. It's going to prove to be a really, really good tournament. And again, I am going to do my best to get through the nonsense of moving, getting my family moved into the new house and so forth, and just have the chance to get up there and take in some of that action, because when again is it going to come so close to home that I don't have to hop on a plane and get a hotel and all that stuff to just watch some of these gladiators go at it. So very excited for that. I got a good UFC card coming up this weekend. Good headliner. Jeremy Stephens versus Josh Emmett. And Jeremy Stephens, famously now known as the Who the Fook Is That Guy, and Josh Emmett, a Team Alpha Male product. Both of them big, heavy hitters. It's going to be fun to watch. A fight that will really have some impact on that division. Then we've got a wicked straw between Jessica Andrade and Tisa Torres. Between number 2 and number 5, and who Andrade is tough as nails, but who I despise because she took down my girl, my crush, my Claudia Gadeja. But that's gonna be a good fight. I mean, Andrade ripped and just hits like a truck for a little 115-pound woman, so that's gonna be a great fight. You got OSP Oven St. Prude versus Ilir Latifi, another big fight for the 205-pound division, number 5 versus number 8. That proves to be pretty good. And then we got Platinum Mike Perry. Always exciting, always fun to watch. He is taking on Max Payne Griffin. So just a pretty good card. We even got Henan Barral making an appearance, taking on Brian Kelleher. So for a fight night card, it's pretty dang good. Sarah McMahon, Marion Reneau, just top to bottom, it's really not bad, considering some of the Fox cards we've seen. So I'm looking forward to that. Alan Joban, Ben Killer B. Saunders, a couple of 2 10th Planet jiu-jitsu guys going at it on the undercard. So you really can't go wrong on this one. So definitely check that one out. On tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, live and free on Fox. So a good card. I gotta say, I'm gonna go with Emmett on this one. I mean, he's number 4. Obviously, he's the higher rank. Stevens is, power puncher, explosive, but I like Emmett. Emmett's been surging. He's 13-1. I think he's gonna take that one. Don't really have any interest in the women's fight because, again, it's not my strawweight cutie, Claudia Gadelha. OSP versus Latifi. OSP wins some that I just don't expect him to win. To me, he always looks slow and methodical and, kind of one-dimensional. But then he goes and he pulls off some wins. But I'm going with Ilir Latifi on this one. He's a big, thick guy. He's powerful. And he just looks angry. He's bald and bearded, and he looks angry. So he's my pick on that one. Mike Perry, definitely. I want to see him win. I think he's a cool little story. I watched him on the MMA Hour with Ariel earlier in the week talking about being in prison and some of his rough spots. And just a cool little character and, very outspoken. So I want to see him keep making a run. But it's going to be a good card. Check it out. Well, guys, that's all I got for today, and I promise it will be the last somber show for a while. Too much seriousness in my life and all our lives. You don't need to come here and listen to me yap on about it. And besides, anyway, who am I to have opinions on any of this stuff, right? I'm a nobody. Born a nobody, I am a nobody, and probably go out of this world a nobody, but, that's all right by me. I really would like to know what you guys think. I mean, obviously my opinions, and if I'm way off on this, let me know, man. Leave us a comment on the Facebook page or message me, and I'll bring it up on the next episode and talk about it. But, maybe I am a little insulated in my world here in Northeast Ohio. So if things are different in your part of the world and I'm just missing something, let me know. I'd love to be educated. I want to give a shout out to one of our fans who purchased a couple t-shirts yesterday, which have been selling pretty steadily. What is remaining is still buy one, get one free. But Mr. G-Wiz Popke has been a great supporter since day one. Did purchase a couple shirts, sir, so I hope you receive them in a timely manner. And, when you get them, take a picture and send it to me. We'll post it on the page. And again, guys, buy one, get one free. Can't go wrong. Show your support for the show. I promise you they will be the most comfortable, softest, most stylish, dynamic, life-changing t-shirts you will ever purchase. I bet the Godfather's fortune on it. So until next time, this is Brother Sin with Beyond the Truth.